Hi students, welcome to SHEKAR's history classes. We are doing this class as part of Prelims and Mains 2022 series. We are continuing the Delhi Sultanates in medieval India. We have finished slave dynasty and now we are doing the Khalji dynasty in this class. The Khaljis immediately followed the slave dynasty. In slave dynasty, who are the important rulers? Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, Rajia Sultana, special focus should be there on Rajia Sultana, and Balban. They tried to establish a strong and independent Delhi Sultanate, which is independent from the Central Asian kingdoms. When Qutbuddin Aibak was the general of Ghori Muhammad, what happened? It was a part of Ghurid Empire. At that point of time, the main politics were taking place in the centers of Ghori and Ghazni. However, with military tactic and marriage alliance system, Qutbuddin Aibak tried to establish a independent Delhi Sultanate practically. Even though legally it was still having some kind of relationship with Ghori and Ghazni relations, but practically he made Delhi Sultanate as an independent kingdom. However, the real establishment of Delhi Sultanate took place in the time period of Iltutmish. Iltutmish ruled from 1211 or 1210 to 1236. During this time period, he established the power of Delhi Sultanate. Because of this historian's term, he was the real founder of Delhi Sultanate. And his contribution was so much, and he earned the trust of people, so that even if he recommended his daughter as the successor, people were ready to accept a woman as the ruler. So this is the kind of power and respect Iltutmish earned during his lifetime. However, after the Iltutmish death, Turkish people or Turkish nobles got so much power. Here we have to focus on the power of Turks. They were the tribes from Central Asia. They gained more power immediately after the death of Iltutmish. As long as Iltutmish was there, he controlled with his power. He established a system called Turkan-i Chehalgani. He established a department which is consisting of 40 Turkish nobles. This department became so powerful that they started conspiring against the sultans if Sultan was not listening to them. That means after the death of Iltutmish, Turkish nobles wanted to set up a sultan who was puppet in their hands. Rajia Sultana, for some time, she was not doing according to their wishes, so they conspired and she was killed by these nobles. Similarly, 3 more sultans were killed by these nobles. So this is the kind of environment during which Nasiruddin Muhammad became the sultan. Understanding the conspiracies of nobles, Nasiruddin Muhammad, he tried to act simply like a constitutional head, but the real power behind the throne was Balban. Balban acted as a vice-regent from 1246 to 1266. So till 1266, he was acting as a Naib or vice-regent for Sultan Nasiruddin Muhammad. So Nasiruddin Muhammad was simply acting according to the advices of Balban. But after 1266, what happened? When Nasiruddin Muhammad died, Balban himself became the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. Now he knows the conspiracies and the real politics of Turkish nobles. He started chasing all these Turkish nobles and finally he decimated the power of Turkish nobles. However, after his death, once again the Turks tried to establish puppet ruler. So we are always talking about the Turkish nobility so far. Now, because of these power hungry Turkish nobles, people were fed up with their policies. So meantime, from the northwestern part of India, a major danger was coming in the form of Mongols. Mongols were a real threat, and they were continuously pushing the Indian frontiers, and they were continuously trying to invade the Indian mainland. So now you can see that Delhi politics were completely under the Turkish nobles. They were powerful, and they were expecting only a puppet sultan, not the powerful sultan. Because of their power hunger, they alienated non-Turkish nobles. These non-Turkish nobles included Turks came from Central Asia. Non-Turkish means some came from Khorasan, that is present-day northeastern part of Iran. From this region, a tribe called Tajiks. So they were part of non-Turkish. They also came to India while Ghurid invasions were taking place. However, Turkish nobles were enjoying the high offices. This is one category. Another type of category were Khaljis. Khaljis were from modern day Afghanistan area. However, they trace their descent to Turkish. They have descent from Turkish origin, but for many generations they settled in Afghanistan, and they themselves occupied a different significant culture. So they were treated by Turkish nobles as ignobles and lower origin. Most of the Khaljis settled in the Indian subcontinent in the eastern part of Gangetic Plain. Why? Here, when Ghurid invasions were taking place, a commander called Bakhtiyar Khalji, he went deep eastward and he conquered Bihar and Bengal region. Because Bakhtiyar Khilji belongs to Khalji people, many people came and settled in these areas. So Khaljis were another non-Turkish nobility. So now Tajiks, Khaljis and Turkish. These are the different type of nobles that are there in the Indian subcontinent of Delhi Sultanate. There is another category. They were Indian Muslims. Or another category. When it comes, there is one more category, Abyssinians. When we study about Rajya Sultana, we find a name, Yakut, he belongs to Abyssinian category. So likewise, from different parts of the world, different communities came and settled in Delhi Sultanate period. And however, Turkish nobles enjoyed full powers during Mamluk dynasty. This was the condition from 1206 to 1290. So up to 1290, Turkish people were enjoying full powers. Under these circumstances, Khaljis were mainly given very hard posts. For example, many non-Turks had never received sufficient recognition in Delhi because Turkish nobles were busy to monopolize high offices. Many non-Turks such as Khaljis also had come to India at the time of Ghurid invasion. So this is what we have seen. And non-Turks were very busy in fighting against themselves. Meanwhile, they alienated non-Turks. There had been resentment and opposition about this practice towards Turkish nobles. Under these circumstances, now many non-Turks, particularly Khaljis, settled in Bihar and Bengal because it is far away from the Delhi. In Delhi, power Game of Thrones going on, so they settled in the far away areas from Delhi. Non-Turks were posted in fringe areas like northwest to fight hardy Mongols. So this shows that main posts in the central administration were taken by Turks, and other small posts and insignificant posts and difficult in charges were given to non-Turkish people, particularly Khaljis. Indian Muslims had been admitted to the nobility, however, denied high offices. So this kind of comparison we can see even during British time period. When Europeans came, when Europeans settled here, and gradually British became the authority. And once they conquered the Indian subcontinent, high offices were filled with British and other Europeans, whereas Indians were recruited at very lower level. So this shows the racial discrimination. So here you can see the term racial discrimination. During British time period, against this racial discrimination, Indians formed a group and they fought for freedom. So freedom struggle took place. However, in this case, now all the non-Turks should come together to fight against the Turks. However, it was not the condition. Whenever non-Turkish people emerged as victorious, the non-Turkish origin people used to celebrate, or at least for some time they felt happy that the Turkish nobility, the Turkish monopoly got destroyed. Same thing happened when Khaljis became the power center at Delhi. This kind of scenario, historians called it as the Khalji Rebellion or the Khalji Revolt. What is this? A group of Khalji nobles led by Jalaluddin Khalji, warden of the marches in the northwest, overthrew the incompetent successor of Balban in 1290. Once again, after the death of Balban, Balban died in 1287. For 3 years till 1290, continuous struggle for throne. Due to this, instability took place, and on the other hand, the Mongols were continuously approaching towards India. Jalaluddin Khalji was here, he was acting as warden of the northwestern frontier. Some of the nobles supported him, and finally Alauddin Khalji occupied the throne of Delhi. This development, the Khalji rebellion, was welcomed by non-Turkish sections of the nobility. For the reason just we have seen what was the situation before 1290. However, it only ended the Turkish monopoly of high offices. However, Turks continued in offices. Jalaluddin Khalji, he did not follow the revenge policies. That means he did not completely alienate or annihilate the Turkish people or Turkish origin people. Only from the high offices he removed some of the Turkish origin people, and he opened the gates of high offices even for non-Turkish, particularly Khaljis. This development was termed as Turkish or the Khalji Rebellion. First ruler in this dynasty, so he established the Khalji dynasty. Now we have to see Jalaluddin Khalji. From 1290 to 1296, for 6 years he was there. His rule was a significant in nature because he followed a unique policy which was strange to the 13th century. We are in 13th century. In those times, only the principle of might is right. The principle was might is right, and it was the age of imperialism. Only sword power enjoys prestige in those times. Jalaluddin Khalji was somewhat deviant from these policies. For the first time, a theory that state should be based on the willing support of the governed. Here, governed means Hindus, those who follow Hinduism or Buddhism or Jainism. So, people of original Hindustan, and also Turks, non-Turks. From outside also many different racial background people came, and within India different people who are following different religions were also there. So religious differences are there, ethnic differences are there, linguistic differences are there. So Jalaluddin Khalji, he was of having the opinion that state should be based on the willing support of the governed. So different kinds of people should accept the state authority. Then only state can flourish in peace. Now you see the differences just within 100 years. Whenever Indian subcontinent always attracts foreigners. But once they settle in the Indian subcontinent, they will cut off from the rest of the parts, and they will continue or flourish in the Indian culture. They contribute for unique Indian culture that is based on tolerance and that is based on inclusiveness. So this is once again a new kind of state policy is taking place gradually from this time period onwards. So far they were seen as foreigners. Now the rulers themselves are acknowledging the fact that without the willing support of the governed people, state cannot flourish. Large majority of the people in India were Hindus. The state in India could not be truly Islamic state. So this shows that he don't want to impose new religion on the existing ideas. This is a great revolutionary development in those time periods. Remember, we are in 13th century. In 13th century, people were fighting in the name of religion. So in those times, having this kind of idea itself a revolution. Whether he was successful or not is secondary, but having this idea itself was a great one. Goodwill of the nobility by a policy of tolerance and avoiding harsh punishments. So he was benevolent in nature. He was benevolent in nature. He was not harsh, and he tried to take all the kinds of people into the administration. However, as I have said, it is the age of 13th century. It is the age in which people believed in the sword power. Many considered this to be a weak policy, which was not suited to the times. As a result, he was murdered by his own son-in-law, Alauddin Khalji. Delhi Sultanate faced numerous internal and external challenges during this time period. Externally, Mongol threat. Internally, within again nobles, this kind of churning was going on. Alauddin reversed this policy when Alauddin Khalji became the emperor, and he reversed this policy. Alauddin awarded drastic punishments to all those who dared to oppose him. So there is a section of nobility and led by Alauddin Khalji. They felt that the prestige of throne lowered because of the benevolent policies of Jalaluddin Khalji. Under these circumstances, Alauddin Khalji took the advantage of this situation, and he killed his own father-in-law and became the Sultan. Alauddin treacherously murdered his father-in-law Jalaluddin Khalji at Kara and occupied throne. Here, as the governor of Awadh, Alauddin had accumulated a vast treasure by invading Deoghar in Deccan. Delhi Sultanate. Delhi was under Jalaluddin Khalji. Alauddin Khalji was made as governor of Kara. Kara is located in the near present-day Allahabad. Without taking any permission from the Sultan, Alauddin Khalji personally he invaded neighboring kingdom, that is Adava kingdom. The capital was Deoghar. He looted a lot of wealth, and now instead of taking this wealth, suppose Alauddin Khalji was a governor, that means he was the employee of the state. If state employee annexing a territory and looting the wealth means the wealth should go to treasury of Delhi. However, Alauddin Khalji has taken to his own area, that is Awadh. Now this news reached Jalaluddin Khalji. Now he wanted to go and punish Alauddin Khalji. However, Alauddin Khalji played a trick that he realized his mistake and he wanted forgiveness from the Sultan. Now Sultan personally went to meet Alauddin Khalji, but Alauddin Khalji had another plan. He treacherously murdered his father-in-law, and whatever riches he gathered from Deoghar, he distributed those riches and he purchased the nobles of Jalaluddin Khalji. So he used the wealth which was acquired from Deoghar expedition to bribe the nobles, and to win over the support of many nobles from Jalaluddin Khalji to his side. Jalaluddin hoped to get this treasure, but he was killed. Now once he became the emperor, Alauddin Khalji became the emperor. Now situation completely changed. He was ruthless in nature. He adopted methods of utmost severity and ruthlessness. Whoever questioned his authority, they were either removed or they were killed. He resorted to a wholesale massacre of rebel Mongols. During this time period, Mongol invasions were going on for so many decades. For example, Chengiz Khan, he was a contemporary of Iltutmish. Iltutmish, with his foresightedness and with his diplomacy, he saved the Delhi Sultanate from the wrath of Mongols. However, the successors of Chengiz Khan, whoever settled in this part, they were continuously trying to enter. Some peacefully entered, some settled in the neighboring Delhi area. During the time period of Jalaluddin Khalji, just we have seen, he was benevolent in nature. So instead of massacring or instead of killing the Mongols, he gave another chance to come and settle in the Indian land. Some of them they were following a form of Buddhism when they came from Mongol. They were converted to Islam and were given shelter in the Delhi Sultanate. However, these Mongols, sometimes they used to create havoc and they used to rebel against the Sultan. During Alauddin Khalji time period also, there were some kind of rebels from Mongols. Some Mongols became part of army of Delhi Sultanate, and they even participated in the expeditions like Gujarat expedition. When Delhi Sultanate army reached Gujarat to conquer Gujarat, there were some Mongol mercenaries as well in the army. However, sometimes they switch their loyalty, and whenever there was a rebellion in the Mongol community, then it will create law and order issue for the Delhi Sultanate. If Jalaluddin Khalji was there, Jalaluddin Khalji will not give harsh, drastic punishments. However, Alauddin Khalji believed in harsh punishments, so he used to resort to wholesale massacre of rebel Mongols. A couple of thousands of Mongols settled down in Delhi after embracing Islam in the time of Jalaluddin. Alauddin gave harsh punishments even to the wives and children of Mongol rebels. So it is not only that the persons who rebelled against him were punished, but even their family members were also punished. So this shows the policy and the ruthless policy followed by Alauddin Khalji in order to safeguard his position as Delhi Sultan. Alauddin framed some regulations also to prevent the nobles from conspiring against him. Now he has become Delhi Sultanate under different circumstances. He killed his uncle and he became the Sultan. So naturally some kind of opposition is expected for him. So in order to safeguard his authority and in order to protect his position, he even framed some kind of regulations to prevent the nobles from conspiring against him. So literally he made nobles very weak so that they would not even think of conspiring against the Sultan. These were some of the regulations were forbidden to hold festivities. He has forbidden the parties among nobles. Even marriage alliances among nobles, they need permission of the Sultan. So this shows that nobles were always wary or afraid of Sultan. He banned the use of wines and intoxicants. He believed that people, if they use more wine, they become rebel. So he even banned the use of wines and intoxicant. However, how far it was practically implemented is secondary question. But these are the kind of regulations he followed in order to in order to maintain his position and also authority of the throne. Instituted a spy service to inform the Sultan of all that the nobles said and did. So each and every information goes to the Sultan. So these times in 20th century, we call all these kind of, if any government follows such regulations, it goes against the fundamental rights, or all these regulations are violating the rights of humans. However, in those times there was no concept of human rights. Might is right, sword power only ruling the state. So he was completely despotic in nature. He was despot, he was absolute in nature, and he was unquestionable. He was trying to maintain unquestionable monarchy in his lifetime. So he ruled from 1296 to, because of these policies, he controlled completely all the nobles, and he participated, and he followed policies of expansionism. He completely faced, he know the conspiracies within the nobility. He tried to control these conspiracies. Once the internal affairs are settled, then he started expansionary policies also. He expanded Delhi Sultanate to Gujarat area, and he even raided Yadava kingdom, Varangal Kakatiya kingdom, and Dwarasamudra is part of Hoysala kingdom, and also his forces reached till Madurai. And also he successfully handled Mongol threat as well because of these policies. Results of ruthless policy. What he achieved because of these policies. Nobles completely became subservient to the crown. Now no more conspiracies against the Sultan. Sultan is more powerful, and the Sultan got the power to do whatever is good for the state. He even discarded ulemas. In Islamic state, ulemas enjoy immense power because their word is almost like word of God. However, Alauddin Khalji discarded them, and he said to ulemas that whatever Alauddin Khalji believes is good for the state, that is final. Whether that is Islamic or un-Islamic, he doesn't care. Whatever he says, whatever he believes is important for the state, that word is final. So with that kind of attitude, he cowed down nobles, ulemas. The old nobility was completely destroyed, and new nobility was taught to accept anyone who could ascend the throne of Delhi. So the prestige of crown was established once again after Balban. Incompetent rulers like even Khusrau was not even questioned. He was incompetent. Still, nobles could not question him because the kind of fear Alauddin Khalji instilled in the nobles. Even Nizamuddin Auliya, a famous Sufi saint of Delhi, acknowledged Khusrau by accepting gifts. This shows that now the prestige of crown was completely maintained. So these are the policies of Alauddin Khalji. In this class we have seen under what circumstances Khaljis emerged, why the emergence of Khaljis considered as a rebellion or a revolutionary development in 13th century, and we have seen Jalaluddin Khalji and also Alauddin Khalji. In next class we have to see what are the reforms that Alauddin Khalji took in order to maintain the stability and power of Delhi Sultanate. Those things we will continue in the next class. Thank you.